Happy New Year! What is up, you guys? My name is Jessie and welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be telling you about some of the books I read in the month of December. Before we get started, I want to go ahead and let you guys know that this wrap up is not going to be a traditional wrap up. Although I read the most books in the month of December, I ended up not enjoying the most. So I'm not going to go over all of the books I read in the month of December just because some of them weren't for enjoyment purposes. Some of them had to do for other challenges or other projects, so I don't really want to mention those, but I do want to tell you about the ones that I really want to share with you. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. So I have my Goodreads up here. The first book I want to mention is an ebook that I read on Script. It was Poems for the End of the World by Katie Wismer, who is also a fellow booktuber, and she wrote The Sweetest Kind of Poison, which is actually my very first poetry collection that I ended up reading, and I really enjoyed it, so I want to check out some of her newer stuff. And I like the fact that her poetry is simplistic, but yet in a delicate way, but yet also relatable. I guess like the overall theme is a continuation of The Sweetest Kind of Poison into like adulthood and things like that. So I really enjoyed this one. I'm really not sure how to like rate poetry, but I ended up giving this one like 5 stars. The next one that I want to talk about is The Wife Upstairs by Rachel Hawkins. You may recognize this one from my top 10 favorites of 2020. This was such a surprise for me. Like, I'm so shocked this actually made the list. And yeah, it made the list. It just came out from Book of the Month and it ended up making that list. And after I read this one, I didn't realize it was a retelling of Jane Eyre, which I haven't read, but I really enjoyed this one. I don't know why. The biggest thing that I liked about this one is it reminded me a lot of The Wife Stalker by Liv Constantine, but better, like way better. This one isn't the same plot, but I feel like, I don't know, it just very much resembled that one for me, and I really enjoyed this one, so I would definitely check this one out. This one is about a woman named Jane who moves into this new town. She kind of meets this guy named Eddie who lost his wife about a year ago. She just went missing, like no one knows what happened to her. So one thing I really like about like domestic thrillers is like the woman who's trying to get into like this richy family or subdivision, you know, like those like I want to take over this woman's life even though the woman's missing type of thing. Like I really enjoy those. So she gets involved with this guy named Eddie who lost his wife, and of course he's filthy rich. She starts becoming really good friends with like the wife's like friends and everything, but then like questions start popping up like what really happened to this wife, and I really enjoyed this one, so definitely check this one out. I forgot to mention, but I ended up giving this one 5 stars as well. The next one I read was The Walking Dead graphic novel, which my friend Rachel let me borrow. I have not kept up with the show, but I remember when I think like season 2 and 3 came out, I was like really invested into the show, and I've always wanted to read the graphic novel for this one. I asked my friend Rachel, thank you so much for letting me borrow it, but she let me borrow it. I really enjoyed it. It really brought back some of the earlier stuff, especially with all the characters who are no longer there, spoiler alerts, but I really enjoyed it and I gave this one 5 stars. The next book that I read, I had to read like a holiday book for a prompt, and although I did not like this one, I did want to mention it is In a Holidays by Christina Lauren. I know a lot of people are loving this, or they love Christina Lauren's writing. Unfortunately, this was my very first Christina Lauren, and I don't know if I'm going to pick up anything else by her. If you feel like something is way better than this one, definitely leave it in the comments and I'll check it out if I can. But this one was so like ridiculous. That's the only word I could think of. Has to do with this girl named Malin. Her and her family always go to this cabin with like 2 or 3 other families, and they always spend the week of Christmas together. It's always been a tradition since they were like little kids. Well, this one year they have decided that this will be their last year at this cabin with all these families, and things just did not go very well for Malin, and yeah. So she ends up getting in a car wreck as she's leaving, and then she's in like this time loop where I don't even know how to explain it, but the week starts all over. Even though the time loop isn't really explained, that really bothered me. But she goes back and she's trying to make everything right, make it perfect. So, and of course there's a romance, and the dude in this book is unbelievably cheesy. Like, so weird. And I did not care. I actually cared for the other characters, and I guess the other point of the love triangle in this one. I was like, dude, like, I don't know. This book was, I ended up giving it 2.5 stars. Not worth my time. The next book I want to talk about is my most anticipated for 2020, and that is Layla by Colleen Hoover. And you guessed it, I gave this one 4.5 stars, but I rounded it up to 5. And this one, I just absolutely, this one's hard to explain without giving it away. But I loved the beginning, loved the ending. The middle part, I was so like bored, not really bored, but I was just like, I don't really care for these characters at all. But I think if I reread this book, knowing how the end ends, I would love this one. Absolutely. Because there's stuff that happens in the middle and you're just like, oh my gosh, like, why are we talking about this? Why is this happening? But then when you get to the end, you're like, holy crap. Like, this book was so good. I loved it. Is it my favorite Colleen Hoover? No. But I like this like paranormal / thriller side. I really wish she would continue writing more stuff like this. Like, I liked Verity more than this one, but this one was so good. It was wild. It was crazy. It had a lot of twists and turns. So I would definitely check this one out. And the audiobook was really, really good. I would check out the audiobook if you're curious. The next book I want to talk about is The Dream Daughter by Diane Chamberlain. I absolutely love this one. 5 stars. I know why all my friends are raving about this one. It was, oh my gosh, like soul crushing, but like in like the best possible way. This is an older book, I will say that. Which is why I think it took me a little bit longer to get into, but it has to do with like historical fiction a little bit in a way. I don't even know how you would classify this, but you have our main character who is pregnant. She lost her husband in the Vietnam War, and she finds out that her baby has a heart defect and it will not survive the birth. So she is completely crushed, especially after losing her husband. Well, she finds out that her brother-in-law is actually from the future, which I know, weird, but he's from the future, and he is able to take her back to 2001, where she will successfully be able to give birth to her daughter in the future. And this book, like, I don't know what it is. Like, I typically don't like sister relationships in books, but gosh, this mother-daughter relationship in this book was just I'm probably going to start crying if I continue talking about this one, but it was so good. Absolutely love the ending. The epilogue crushed me. Go read this book if you're looking for something around. I wouldn't say it's not as sci-fi, but it does have that time travel element to it with a little bit of history and everything like that. So I would definitely check this one out. The next 2 books I want to talk about is Heartstopper Volume 1 and Volume 2. I loved these books. These are so flippin' cute and sweet and soft and innocent. And I just absolutely loved reading this. I was able to check it out from my library using the Overdrive app, so I was able to read on my Kindle. So I didn't really get to see color in this book, but like just seeing, like, I really want to read Volume 3. Like, I'm so excited. If you don't know what this one is about, it is about a male-male romance in high school, and basically it's about the first one is about like a friendship forming between the 2 guys, and like they talk about like their sexuality, and like one of them is out, the other one is confused, and it is so sweet. And then, you know, it just blossoms into this like sweet and innocent romance, and I loved it. Also, I really like that the author actually illustrates her own books, so I thought that was really cool. So very much worth the hype. The next book I want to talk about is probably the one book that definitely put me in a reading slump. I'm only giving this one 2 stars just because I did not like it. I thought it was very obvious who did it. And I don't know, I just don't think Ruth Ware is one for me, but one by one. This one is about a startup company who basically takes all their employees to like a work retreat, and there's just kind of like bond and stuff like that. But, well, there is a winter storm that happens, and one by one, someone keeps going off getting killed. And it's quite obvious who it is. I did not enjoy this one because I don't mind knowing who it is, but like at least let me wait till after 100 pages. Like at least 100 pages. Also, the conversations between this book, like I don't really care about like the business itself. Like I could give two shits about that one. After I read this one, I literally threw it across the room. Did not like this one at all. The next book I read was Confessions on the 745, which I did want to read before the end of the year. And this one started out pretty good. It's described as a lady who misses her train, so she has to take the later train. And while she's on the train stops, and she ends up talking to the stranger beside her. And she admits to the stranger that she thinks and knows her husband is having an affair with their nanny. The stranger on the train admits that she is sleeping with her boss, who is also married. So that's how it's described. But once you go into this one, there's like 2 other characters involved, and I'm just like, okay, so there's way more to the story. But then like things get revealed and it makes more sense. But as I kept digging into this book, and as like perspectives and like characters were being revealed, I was just like, I gave this one 3 stars. I think also coming from One by One to this one, it was a little bit of a rough patch. So I don't think it's necessarily the book's fault. However, I wouldn't recommend this one. Like, even if I was like in not a reading slump, I don't think this one is something I would normally recommend, if that makes sense. So, and lastly, the last book I want to talk about is One Step Behind by Lauren North. As you know, I've put this on my TBR quite a bit, and it was okay. I felt like the book could have went in a better direction. However, I don't know, just I didn't enjoy this. And again, honestly I think it's just because I was in this reading slump. So I don't know. I mean, you're more welcome to give this one a try. I did hear that this one wasn't as good as The Perfect Son, which is her other book. So I may give that one a try, but unfortunately I didn't really enjoy this one. I really didn't like our main character. I thought she was kind of, I mean, I know she was being stalked, but I thought she was a little bit on the whiny side. And I just can't stand grown adults whining. So yeah. So I don't know. You can check it out if you want to. Alright guys, that is all the books I want to mention for the month of December. Sorry it's not my traditional setup. Hopefully January will be more kind to me as far as my reading. But yeah, I'm going to head out. Make sure you guys subscribe so you don't miss out on another bookish video. And I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!